here. Mary!
Margaret, how have you been?
Oh my gosh, it's been so long. Come in and sit down. I've been brewing a cup of tea. Do you like a cup?
I would love some.
Great. We have so much catching up to do.
Oh, yes we do. Oh, this is lovely.
Yeah, it's one of Mom's old recipes.
That's where this is from. I remember Mother would always make it for the women at church.
Oh, and those muffins we made went great with it.
Well, I happened to pass by old Mrs. Baker's shop on my trip here.
I haven't had muffins like these in years.
Yes.
They're delicious.
Yes, I couldn't resist having one on the way here. So, how have things been for my little sister?
Quite hectic, Johnny being in the war and all. What about your husband?
He's in the war as well, along with both of my boys.
They're 18 already?
Yes. My daughter, who is only 15, is out in Missouri, helping out being a needlewoman.
That's so nice that she's sewing uniforms and tents for our hardworking soldiers. My daughters are helping me run the farm since Johnny's out fighting.
Yes, we're all having to take on harder jobs to make money, what with all the men away. Even I had to get a job to pay for my taxes.
Yeah, the government's so overpowering with all their harsh war taxes.
Overpowering. It's the states that have too much power.
Do you even know what this war is about, Mary?
Yes, it's about the southern states being so incompliant and the fact that they refuse to release their slaves. Can you imagine the nerve of these people thinking that they can own another person?
You're talking like you're in the Union.
I am. Are you of the Confederacy? Margaret, how could you go against our parents' beliefs?
What do you mean going against our parents' belief? Just because they didn't own slaves doesn't mean that they weren't against it.
My own sister. Don't tell me that you own slaves.
Well, Mary, I live on a large farm. Of course I own slaves.
You don't have to own another person. Maybe if you weren't so lazy, you could actually do the work for yourself instead of buying and selling human beings to do it for you.
To do it for me, I don't just sit around the house, Mary. I work alongside them. All day I have to supervise them. Not to mention caring for my children, cleaning the house, and making meals. Do you have any idea how hard it is since Johnny's gone to war?
I think I do. And the slaves work harder than you do. They spend their whole day working in the fields with the hot sun, breaking their back just so they can rake in money for you.
Those Negroes are lucky that I give them food and shelter for the work that they do.
Lucky? If they were free and they could make a living of their own, a family of their own. They are forced to have children who are taken away from them just to work as another man's property.
The slave trade is an important part of Kentucky's agriculture and economy. And the Northerners used to have slaves.
Yeah, and we realized how wrong it was, and we changed that.
Well, I don't have a choice. All there is down here is farming, and to do that, we need slaves.
Well, up north, we're smart enough to realize that we need more than cotton to sustain our way of life.
We would have supplies if it wasn't for the North blockading off our ports so that we can get supplies from Europe. So all we have left is our farming and the few resources we have down here. I have to make all my family's clothes now.
That isn't our fault. We blockaded your ports because this is war. That's what happens. It's your fault. Before the war, you could have built schools and factories. But no, you relied on our factories.
None of this would have happened if we were allowed to nullify some of the senseless laws the government came up with to favor the North.
Favor the North? They make these laws so that everything is balanced.
Nothing is balanced. We're in a war. I have such hatred towards Lincoln. He is tearing this country we built apart.
Lincoln is a good man. Before he was even president, 7 states ceded from the Union. It's the South that tore this country apart.
Get out.
Anything you say.
Oh, just hurry back to your perfect northern life.
You think it's easy for me? I have a lot of hard work, and I don't have any slaves to do it for me. I had to sell my home and move to the city so I could work in a dangerous factory. A factory is no place for a woman. Yet I still work 13 hours a day by myself, just as you should. And when I come home, I have to cook meals, clean, sew uniforms, and that leaves hardly any time for me to sleep before I do it again the next day.
I have to do the same amount of work. You had a choice, and you chose to be a vivanderie.
Yes, because I don't sit back and watch this war happen. You have time to help because your slaves do all the work. You choosing not to help shows what kind of person you are.
I told you, my slaves don't do all my work, and they're not illegal either.
What about the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863?
What about it? It doesn't affect us here in Kentucky because we were one of the 4 slave-owning states still in the Union.
Yes, Kentucky is still part of the Union. So since we live here, we should follow our state and be part of the Union.
It still doesn't matter because the proclamation doesn't affect us here.
We show our sympathy by emancipating slaves where we cannot reach them and holding them in bondage where we can set them free.
You were always stuck up and proper, even as a child.
Because I know what's right. And didn't you take the oath of alliance? You must have.
Yes, but only to avoid being put in prison.
I don't know who you are anymore.
Well, I thought you were leaving.
Okay, what if I were to leave right now and tell people that down here in southern Kentucky, Confederates are living? Wouldn't you be scared of people coming down here and attacking you?
Unionists have already attacked and taken my supplies and livestock. That's why we put together the Home Guard.
What?
It's a group of local citizens who make up a military police to protect us from savage unionists.
We aren't savage. We stand up for what is right.
What's right? Is it right to cut off our supplies and then steal what little we have left?
Like I said, we're having a war.
And why, may I ask you, do you think that you're going to win this war?
Because we have a bigger army?
Only because our slaves ran away to join your army.
There's a reason for that. We also have more supplies and better weapons. We even have foreign aid. See, the rest of the world realizes what is right and thinks we should win. You're just too ignorant to see that.
Each one of our soldiers and officers are much more skilled than the Unions. And also, since we're fighting on our own turf, we know the land. We know each river, stream, and mountain.
We have factories that can make more and more weapons, unlike you. And while you only grow cotton, we produce the most food in the nation, so all soldiers will be strong while your men are weakened by the lack of food.
But
Another thing, since we have all the immigrants working in our factories, production doesn't slow while the men are off fighting. We also have noble young women, like my little Lillian, off working in the Ladies' Union Aid Society. They care for wounded soldiers, providing them with food, and they mend uniforms and tents.
she probably isn't doing much anyway, just getting in the way.
Whoops, sorry.
Mary, this is one of the nicest things I have left.
Oh, well, you can at least get one of your slaves to clean it up.
Well, that's what God put them on this earth for.
No, they're people just like you and me.
Don't ever compare me to a filthy Negro.
Well, you aren't much better than one.
Who do you think you are, coming into my home, telling me how to live my life?
Well, you obviously have a lot to learn. What will Mom and Dad think about this? You being a slave owner, your husband and boys fighting for the Confederacy? I expected more from you, Margaret.
I'm just doing what I think is right, just as you are.
Well, I want free states, you want slave states.
You're a nationalist and I'm a sexualist.
I want to keep this country as one, and you want it divided.
See, we're much too different. This is why we're having a civil war.
There's nothing civil about this war. Goodbye, Margaret.